Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Video Podcast. My name is Ariel Martinez. On this episode, we're talking with Dave Mays. Now, we've had Dave on the show before. On this one, though, we're discussing how he recently reacquired his old channel, Kinotika. He was able to get it back, and now he is 100% owner of the channel, what he plans to do with it. And also, we're analyzing what it takes to have a successful YouTube channel. We're discussing the different steps and tactics that one can possibly take, the algorithm, how successful channels have gone down in viewership and how unknown channels have basically gone up. It's very interesting. We have a very interesting and thoughtful conversation regarding this. If you're interested in starting your channel, your podcast, whatever it is, we're starting to analyze what's going on with the algorithm, with the audience, with retention rate, and all this stuff that we really don't know much about. So we're trying to see how much does the viewership, how much of your content really plays a factor on this, or is it purely the YouTube algorithm, or is it a combination of all of it? So it's a very interesting conversation that we have. We bring up topics that and ideas that we really didn't think about before, and it kind of forced us to sort of rethink both of our strategies on the show. Dave is a good friend of mine, and I'm super glad I had him on the show, and we had such a great conversation. Just looking forward to what he does with his channel. But anyways, I'm done ranting. With all that said, here's my conversation with Dave Mays. All right, Dave Mays, you're back with us. Last time you were here, this was the iFilmmaker podcast. Now it's the Miami Video Podcast.
I like that.
How you doing, man?
Dude, that's legit. I kind of wore my Miami shirt too. I don't know if you noticed.
I love that. I see the palm trees all over it. Looks really, really cool.
I just picked this up.
Can't wait to get you out here, though.
Just picked this up off of Ross. Have you ever gone to Ross to get clothes?
Born and raised on Ross.
I don't know about you, but like my mom and my grandma, basically Ross is like their like crack cocaine. Like they go there all the time. They're obsessed with Ross and Kohl's for the sales. You can't go to Kohl's like normal price because it's like overpriced, but they always have sales and stuff. So
it's so funny. Ross, like you go there expecting it's like a treasure hunt. You got to go find the hidden gems in there.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I see it. You go there, you're there for hours though, and then you find the good stuff.
Yeah, it's like there's all these like neon colored, shirts and like purple shirts with the most disgusting like design you could ever imagine. But then right next to it is this shirt. I'm like, actually, that looks kind of good. And you kind of think to yourself too, like, am I deceiving myself here? Like, is this just like mediocre because it's next to so many bad shirts? But then you try it on, it's like, oh, it actually fits well. And I feel like they get you too with like TJ Maxx, Ross, those places, because it's like, compare at $70. I'm like, nobody's buying this shirt for $70. Like, I think it's all a scheme. Like, this was designed to be sold at Ross for, I think I paid $10 for this shirt.
Yeah.
It was designed to be sold for $10, but the tag is supposed to say, and it's always all these weird brands that you've never heard of too. It's like, compare at $79, we're selling it for $10. I'm like, I think that's all a scam. I don't know.
Have you ever seen those kiosks at the mall where all you see from a distance is sunglasses? There's Ray-Ban, Oakley. You see these big brand sunglasses. And then as you get closer, there's small letters on top of the big letters that say, compare prices to Ray-Ban, compare prices to Oakley. Nice. So it's kind of like a draw that gets you where that's you awful. Just see the big brands and that's what draws you. But you get closer and it's obviously like just something. Now they got you. Now you got to talk to this person that's probably going to approach you.
Totally.
That's so annoying.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, man. So you've had some big changes in your life. That's amazing. I saw you recently reacquired Kinotika.
Yeah.
The YouTube channel that you were once the main host for. You moved on to do Indie Mogul, and then you came back and you said, "I want my channel back." Well, how did that whole thing kind of materialize?
Yeah, sure. So, this last year, I kind of took the year off, and I think we discussed this previously the last time we talked. But I took
Hmm.
the year off after Indie Mogul and worked for my cousins and did some just commercial work. Still doing video, lots and lots of video actually.
Yeah.
But it was a really healthy time for me, and I just want to encourage anybody who's listening who maybe is in that creator space. If they feel like it's taking a toll on their life and their family, then consider taking a break and not worrying about the algorithm and all this and that. Cause like I took a whole year off and I came back like stronger, better. Like my marriage is better. I feel healthier. My relationship with my kids is better. Like overall, that last year, even though I kind of was kicking and screaming the whole time, not the whole time, but especially the first half. And I remember having a phone call with you about this,
Right.
like 2 months in, I was really kind of depressed.
Hmm.
And you really brought something up. You're like, you got to realize that your identity is not in what you do. Your identity is in Christ, and it's in who you are as a person and who you are to God and stuff. So like,
That's right.
I really resonated with that, and it was you who kind of pointed that out to me, honestly, Ariel, and I appreciate your honesty in that way. So,
Absolutely.
um, that being said, that whole 2021
Right.
for me was a very good year. But to go back to what you just said, yeah, I
Hmm.
was hosting Indie Mogul, channel with over 1 million subs in the filmmaking community, and it was kind of the dream job for a lot of people, I would guess, and even for myself obviously too, like to be able to do YouTube full time at that scale with a crew, with a set in Hollywood. It was kind of like a dream come true, and I found that it wasn't what I was expecting. It didn't fulfill me, and that's where,
Hmm.
I feel like I needed that last year to really kind
Yeah.
of reevaluate my life and to go back to God and realize that I get my identity in Him. So, um,
That's awesome.
anyways, I quit my job working for my cousins back in February. I'm still working with them on a contract basis, but the last year I was a full time like employee, so I was doing 8 hours a day, 9 to 5 kind of thing,
Mm.
and so we transitioned to contract based, and they got pregnant, and so they were like, "Hey, we know we were gonna like do a bunch of videos with you, but we're pregnant now, and Amy is like feeling really sick, so we can't really shoot anything for a while." And I'm like, great. I just went freelance. I lost my health insurance. Like I lost all my reliable income. I need
Right.
to figure out how to make money to pay the bills. So
Right.
it was completely on me. It was my decision to go contract. So, I didn't feel entitled to anything by them by any means, but I was expecting to at least, half of my income coming from them potentially.
Sure.
But um, so it was just one of those moments where I was just trusting God that He would provide work. And
Hmm.
I started doing YouTube again on my own personal channel. And, I had like 6,000 subs there because it was just sitting there for the last 4 years. And I posted
Yeah.
my music video parodies on there. Um,
Okay.
over the years, and I just started doing some Kinotika videos again, style videos. Which, if you're not familiar, Kinotika was the channel I started about 4 years ago. A company hired me to host it. It was not my channel; I did not own it, but they paid me
Mm.
to host it. And Connor McCaskill also helped me shoot and edit that. And he moved back to Tennessee, and he started working with me again back in February. And we were just doing the videos, and everything was going great. And I was just talking to my buddy Zach, who used to host Kinotika. He was the guy who took over for me when I went to Indie Mogul, and
Okay.
he decided to quit back in December. And he's now working for Matt Diavella, doing all his video editing. Not all, but he's one of the editors that's working for Matt Diavella.
Very
Um,
cool.
and so I talked to Zach. I was like, do I have your blessing to like pursue reaching out to Kinotika? Because Zach told me that they had no plans of like hiring another host. They had no plans on like what they wanted to do with the channel.
Hmm.
The owners of the channel just kind of were like, yeah, we're kind of done with it. Like it's not, it's not making a ton of money. It's just kind of sitting there. We don't want to kind of hassle with finding a new host and stuff.
Wow.
And so I asked Zach, I was like, I know you don't work there anymore, but I just kind of want your blessing on this because he's a good friend of mine. And
Sure.
he was like, dude, go for it. Like you and Connor kind of created that channel, and like there's really nobody else that could take ownership because, you know, I have 200 of my past videos on there. It's like a library of all my old
Right.
videos. Um, and Connor too, who's working with me. So I started exploring that. I reached out to my old boss, who doesn't work there anymore, but they're
Mm.
based in China, and so we
Oh.
had to do, like yeah,
Okay.
we had to do like a FaceTime call. And yeah, it was a so yeah. Did I just drop a bomb on you? Did you not know that?
Well, it was almost. The name would almost suggest it, but I really didn't. Never really knew what Kinotika meant. So it's just
Doesn't mean any. Yeah, it doesn't really
that's-
mean anything at all.
it
It
sounds like a
was
Chinese
a
brand.
Yeah, it was basically a company that had started multiple channels in the camera gear industry and in the
Okay.
camera space. And it was like this investor who is from, apparently, this is all what I was told. So it's an investor from San Francisco who I looked up his name, and he is a real person, but he lives in China, and he's was investing in like camera gear news and like investing in DJI and different things. So
Mm.
I don't know the full story, to be completely honest, but
Okay.
it was always a question mark where the money was coming from and who this company was. So let's just everything has been kind of like a little shady over those years, but because I was like, I would like to take ownership of this and make it not shady, and like I own it, like, and make it
Yeah.
fully American and fully normal. So I reached out to my old boss, and he was at first he was like, "Do you still have the login credentials for Kinotika?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. I can actually still get into the YouTube studio. I still had my old email and everything." And I checked, and like my Apple password manager still had all the login information, and
Oh.
uh, and he was like, "You could just take it." I was like, I don't, I don't want to
You could
just
just
like,
take it?
I was like, I don't want to just like take over and not have permission. Like he was suggesting, because I had YouTube uh studio, that I could just change the name and just start uploading. He's like, they won't even notice. They don't care. And
Wow.
I was like, well, I feel a little uncomfortable doing that, because basically I was a manager of the channel, but not primary owner of the channel.
Oh,
The owner is the investor person.
sure.
Um, so I was like, can you please just like, I'm not a primary owner, and they could essentially delete it at any moment if I did that. Plus, I feel morally wrong about that.
Of course.
Anyways, so about a week goes by, and he's like, okay, let me just like work some negotiating. And so he ended up just reaching out to the owner, and he like went up the food chain to all the people that he knew back when he used to work for them. And he came back and he said, you have full permission to take the channel for free. Um, and we're
Wow.
going to transfer primary ownership over to you. You're the only person on the planet that we would do this to, basically. Because like I kind of started it, and they're like, we understand that this will really help you and benefit you. And so we would just want you to have it, because we don't want to do anything with it anymore. So I didn't have to pay anything for it. They just gave it to me.
Wow.
And they added me as an owner. And then when you're an owner of the channel, it takes 7 days if you're like new on the, I don't know all the Google stuff, but like on the Google management side,
Yeah.
you have to be an owner or something for a week before you can become a primary owner. And so I waited a week. I became the primary owner, and then I booted off everybody else. I was able to delete their accounts, and so now my Gmail, my own login is attached to Kinotika. And then I posted my first video this Monday. Um, as you're listening to this, it's March 25th, but it was this week.
Yeah.
And I changed the name of the channel to Dave Mays. So now, like, we can talk about that if you want, but I
Yeah.
just felt like the name didn't really mean anything, and it was just confusing. And if I'm going to own it anyways, like, I didn't want to have to build up two different brands, the Dave Mays brand and the Kinotika brand. And
Yeah.
um, yes, there's like a bunch of videos where I say this is Kinotika, but people can just
Yeah.
figure it out that it used to be a different name and now it's Dave Mays. But
It's
yeah,
crazy how that whole thing unfolded.
I kind of shut down my personal channel and just kind of I'm just going full into this channel, which is the Kinotika channel, which has 87,000 subs, I think. So um, hopefully we can get that up to. Oh wait, no, is it 89? I don't know, but we're close to 100. So I'm hoping to hit 100 this year. That's kind of my goal. So
Oh, I'm sure you're gonna get that for
we'll
sure.
see.
But man, that's pretty incredible how that whole thing happened. And yeah, I could see what they mean by you're the only person, since it is essentially all your videos that is up on the channel.
Yeah,
Did they do that with all the other channels that they owned
I don't know all the
that you're
channels.
aware of? Oh, okay.
So there's only one other channel that I know of. And it's called We Talk UAV. A guy named
Hmm.
Alex is the host, and we've been in communication this last month because he's been a little frustrated with them not paying him on time and stuff. And
Really?
so I was telling him like, you should just do what I did, like try to get ownership of it, but um, it might be a little different. I tried to get ownership of Kinotika before Indie Mogul. I tried to get it and it was going to happen, and then at the last minute they backed out and they're like, "No, never mind. We'll just keep paying you, and we don't want to give it to you." And I was gonna pay for it. Like I was gonna like give them the revenue for a year or something until I paid off like the value of it. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, technically, they gave me the brand of Kinotika because it's actually against YouTube's policy to sell a channel. So, but
Huh.
what you can do is transfer ownership of a company to different people, and that can include the YouTube channel. So, um, if any lawyers are listening,
Interesting.
The Kinotika brand was given to me, so I own the domain kinotika.com. I own the brand, and then I included with that was the YouTube channel, which I then decided to change to the name Dave Mays. So
What was on the website?
they initially wanted to do like a cinema D or Cine D kind of news shooter kind of thing
Vlogs and
where
stuff?
yeah. And so when I first started the channel, part of my contract was that I would write a blog along with the videos, and that got old really quick. I was like, I don't want to do this. So
Right.
they ended up hiring a writer to write
Yeah.
blog posts alongside the videos I would make. Um, and but then they ended up just after like a year of doing that,
Yeah.
they're like, we don't the YouTube channel's doing better, and we don't really care.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but if you just go to kinotika.com, it just forwards to my website now. So
Very cool. So now that you have the channel, now that you have all your subscribers back, what's the plan? Do you plan on continuing the same path, or what do you have anything
yeah,
specific else planned?
I'm kind of picking up where I left off with Indie Mogul. I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to do that I got a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but I did get pushback from Indie Mogul. They wanted me to stay, basically just keep doing what they've been doing, which is great. Like I love the channel and I love what Ted created, but I had some other ideas. I feel like there's really a hole in our niche that can be filled by somebody that's doing a little bit more broader appeal topics. That I'm trying to basically find that balance of the YouTube genre like style that can hold retention and have interesting titles and clickable concepts, but not be cringy.
Mm,
So like that's really my number one goal is to find that balance of like my personality is a little bit more cringe than the overall market of our niche, I think. And so um I've I've thought for the last couple of years like I need to start just an entertainment channel
right.
and basically just target teenagers because I feel like I can perform for teenagers and they would actually like I can work in that market and not be cringy. I mean, it will be cringy, but like I don't care. Like I that's just my personality. Um, but I'm not ready to do that right now because I need to kind of like build something that's making money, and entertainment channels don't make a lot of money. So
Mm,
I feel like I have been given a huge blessing with this opportunity. And
yeah.
so I'm kind of, I'm going to keep doing reviews and different things like that. But I'm also experimenting with finding ways to kind of take it to the next level with everything. I feel like I've just been doing a lot of studying and of all the channels right now
Yeah.
that are kind of big in our niche. And generally, like, everybody's views are down overall.
Really?
And I think, yeah, so like if you look at like Potato Jet, you would think like he was really, and by the way, disclaimer for all this, I love all these creators. I respect them extremely.
Mm-hmm.
Like I respect all these people. I'm just being observant and constructive criticism
Sure.
here. And I don't think these decisions that these people are making mean that they're failing. They're probably all making good money still.
Right.
But that being said, Potato Jet's views are down compared to where they were a couple years ago. Peter McKinnon, especially, his views are way down. He has 6 million subscribers and he's kind of averaging 100,000 views a video. So he's not, and if you watch McKinnon's videos with the eyeball or like the understanding of what is working on YouTube, if you were to read the YouTube formula book or look at what Mr. Beast is doing and what the biggest creators on the planet are doing, McKinnon is not even, it doesn't even seem like he's trying to be a YouTuber. He's just doing the vlogs that he's always done
Yeah.
and just kind of being himself and putting himself out there with his personality, which is great. People love it. About 100,000 people, 100 to 300,000 people love that. And
Yeah.
that's enough people. If you're getting 300,000 views a video, like, that's a very respectable living that you can make off of that with sponsorships and with the plus his name recognition is insane. So he makes so much money with the products that he sells.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is all my disclaimer to say that I respect
Sure.
him
Sure.
and
But
stuff.
that's interesting.
I've
I would
just
like
been
to know more about that. What's going on?
and
What's going on here with everyone's views dropping?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, but I did have I had one video in particular at Indie Mogul that took off like a
Yeah.
wildfire, and it was exactly it was completely strategized based on what I was studying works with YouTube, with retention and understanding how the structure of a YouTube video is to keep people to watch to the end. And it's basically having some sort of premise or having some sort of storyline in addition to the review that you're doing that engages the viewers enough to keep them to watch to the end. So the only video that I did for Indie Mogul that was a success in that way was the Mavic, or the DJI Mini versus Inspire 2 drone
Mm-hmm.
video, where I took the Mini 2 and I put it head to head with the Inspire 2 with like the X7 gimbal, and then I did like side by side tests, and then I color graded them to be as close as possible. And then the premise was Ted and I were going to watch the footage back and was going to try to see if I could fool Ted into thinking that the Mini was actually the Inspire, and like basically just trying to see if I could trick him into thinking that the cheap $300 drone looks as good as the expensive drone. So that type of content, I feel like in our niche, can get cringy really fast because people who take themselves really seriously start to like roll their eyes at the
Mm-hmm.
concept. Like, oh, I mean, this is so
Mm-hmm.
stupid. A $300 drone is not going to look like they're the ones, filmmakers are the ones who are having to
Yeah.
explain to like normal people why a $4,000 camera is worth it compared to a $900 camera you buy at
Right.
Costco. So when a YouTuber comes along and presents a premise like that, it causes eye rolls. But the reason that it worked was because, yes, the concept was kind of silly, but the content was valuable too. Like, I was able to kind of share what I learned and like show some of the tricks I did to make the cheap one look better.
Yeah.
And then the fun of like the game show approach of Ted trying to figure out which one was which, like, made people interested enough to watch to the end to see if he got them all right.
So that's
So
good. That's really
yeah, so basically I want to play around with that in our niche some more, and again with an emphasis on not making it cringy, because I think I did another video that was maybe a little too cringy. That was the iJustine versus Armando video, where I took an iPhone versus Alexa and did some side by sides and like, did this whole game show thing. And I don't think the edit was very good either. A lot of that was out of my control too. The edit on it, my first director's cut of that, I feel like would have performed better. But basically, there's like definitely a million people that would probably consistently watch a channel that was like doing filmmaking camera gear stuff that is working in the YouTube algorithm space, but then is also providing value and information. Parker Wahlberg or whatever his name is, he's doing that. He's definitely somebody who's been like consistently doing he literally is doing the pro versus amateur videos or whatever, which perform very well. And it's for that same reason that it holds people's attention to the end. And so I have some ideas that I haven't seen done before. I don't want to share them yet because I don't want to give away my secrets. But I have some ideas. Basically, my problem with a review is like if I talk about a camera, I kind of have to cover almost all of the specs that are important, but not every person cares about every spec. So I find in myself, I had to like really be aware of myself when I would watch reviews, especially like Gerald Undone. He breaks up his reviews really well with the chapter markers. I think that's a little deadly for the video because I just kind of look at the chapter markers and just click to where I'm actually interested. So I only end up watching, he's got a 10-minute video. I only end up watching 3 or 4 minutes of it. So I'm trying to figure out, like, I do need to provide all that information to get the full picture of the camera. I don't want to just cover 3 or 4 things. Maybe I could experiment with that. It's like the 3 features that I'm interested in, but then that borders on the line of like cringy. It's like, you're not providing enough value here. You're only doing 3 things, So I'm trying to infuse other elements into it without the cringe factor, along with providing all that value somehow. So I've got some ideas. But
so I'm not a YouTuber, and I'm not. It's funny. I've been saying that for years. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't do like reviews like that or anything like that. But I will provide some sort of consulting, if you will. So I recently, about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, I got into golf. Golf has basically taken over. Like, it's really, it got me hooked. So I started watching a lot of golf videos. The biggest golf channel that I've seen is called Rick Shields. This guy does, compared to his other golf channels that do, this guy's like the biggest. And one thing that I noticed that he always does, and I haven't seen this on any other channel, is basically he creates some sort of attraction for you to view till the end. So if he's comparing 2 golf clubs, he'll say things like, stick around to the end to see which one of these will win. Injecting lines like that is definitely something that's attractive. I mean, for me, I always catch it. I know what he's doing. I see that, and he always remembers to sort of in the middle of his video, if you're liking this video, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, things like that. He's very, very good at that. So I definitely analyze that from a video creator point of view. I see what he's doing. He does it very, very well. What he does well is build tension, kind of like what's gonna happen, Can this driver outdrive that driver? Is this ball gonna be the next thing that changes the game of golf? Well, stick around and find out. Like things like that. Has been very effective, I think, especially for him. I mean, the guy is now over 2 million subscribers for a golf channel. So it's I just looked at it. The guy is doing phenomenal stuff, and mind you, and I noticed from a video creator, he only recently started shooting with good cameras. And when I say recently, I mean the last 4, 5, 6 months. Everything he's been doing with iPhones. Like he would do his videos with nothing but iPhones. All his B-roll, everything, iPhones.
Well, I'm coming at all this with the kind of trial and error that I've had over the last 4.5 years doing this, and then also just studying
Mhm.
a lot. Like this last year was a study year for me
That's
of
good.
like just masterclass on just reading this book, the YouTube Formula. If you haven't read this or you're not
Mm.
familiar with it, this book that I'm holding up on
The
camera, if you're watching, the YouTube Formula by Daryl Eves. Highly recommend this. It's basically the Bible for
Yeah.
YouTubers, and it's kind of like the things he teaches in this are all about retention, click through rate, like how to build tension, like you're
Yeah.
saying, how to like build a good thumbnail. And just because we're in a professional niche here with the filmmaking community doesn't mean that these rules don't apply.
Yeah.
And I just keep going back to that Inspire versus Mini video, because that video, I just remember the analytics when I was working there. It was like we were getting 70-80% retention, and it blew up.
Mhm.
It's close to 1 million views now,
Yeah.
and like that's the only video that we ever did like that. But like I'm learning that the
Mhm.
cringy like YouTuber face thumbnails don't necessarily work super well in our niche, um, because it's cringy. Like we have so many, let's just be honest, like middle-aged men
Yeah.
who watch this content, and like that's a huge turnoff to them. And so, but then also, I'm also considering the fact that over the next 10 years, we're going to be getting a bunch of kids coming out of high school and college that are growing up watching Mr. Beast and all this and that. So they're going to maybe not be as triggered by the YouTuber face,
Hmm.
so, um,
Hmm.
but that's my key like thing that I've learned recently is like to work well. Basically every creator that is very successful in our niche kind of has a little bit of a swag to their content, like Parker, Peter
Mhm.
McKinnon, Maddie, like they're all Sam Colder, like they all are kind of aspirational filmmakers in a way, because people look to their work as like, oh man, what they're doing is so epic, so
Mhm.
cool,
Mhm.
so sexy. Whereas like Potato Jet, Kai W, myself, Jared Polin, like they're all very funny, entertainment
Right.
focused. Um, and I mean, Potato Jet has clearly worked really well, but he's actually a very good filmmaker and DP. So he's got that going on. So like I think I'm decent with
Sure.
shooting, but I'd never care about the production very
Mhm.
much. I'm always like, just give me the story, give me the entertainment. And I think that's where YouTube is. That's the sweet spot for YouTube, really. Cause like you said, your
Mhm.
golf channel, Rick Shields, like any channel outside of the filmmaking tech channels kind of can get away with like crappy
Yeah.
cameras. In fact, I think it kind of enhances the storytelling because it feels more authentic, more
Yeah.
DIY kind of. So, but with our niche, I've found it does kind of have to have a certain level of
Sure.
quality to establish that you're like know what you're doing. But I think the problem is all these channels, like right now, if you just search, let's just say, for example, the GH6, the Panasonic GH6 just
Yeah.
came out. If you just search Panasonic GH6 on YouTube, you're going to find all these channels of all these guys that look like amazing guys. They all have great value. But there's so many channels now that have about 2,000 subscribers that are getting, on a GH6 video, maybe 1,200 to 7,000 views on those videos. And all those new channels that didn't exist 4 years ago are people that saw what Peter was doing, what Maddie was doing 4 years ago, and they're like, I can do that. And now they're doing it. Everybody has the exact same
Mm.
set with the wood and the RGB lights and the aperture 120D, and they're all shooting on the A7S III or, maybe a C70 or Blackmagic or whatever. And like, there's nothing creative or interesting about that. I think it's valuable to input your opinion and to be yourself, and like nobody can be you. So like be yourself, and that's totally great. And I don't fault any of these guys, and I've been that guy as well. But like I think that's the problem with the niche
Yeah.
right now is there's so many people doing it because we're all video professionals. Like every single one of those channels are freelance filmmakers who are just like, I'm going to do a YouTube channel on the side while I do my music videos and weddings and whatever. And that's a great way to kind of build a following. And like, if you're doing it specifically to kind of grow your career as a freelancer, then that's
Yeah.
great. But for the YouTuber, like I want to be, I could care less about making movies or commercial projects. I don't want to work with another client for the rest of my life. Like I just want to make YouTube forever. And I love cameras. I could talk about cameras all day. I don't care what camera it is. I'm fascinated by it and I love picking it up and figuring out how to use it. I don't really care about shooting like epic cinematic stuff. I just like the
Right.
camera. So like for 4 or 5 years, I felt like I was sort of being like told it's not about the camera. It's not about the camera. Like you got to tell a good story or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But to me, the story is the camera. I like the camera. I'm kind of obsessed about the
Yeah.
product. And I don't know if that, I don't, and that's kind of the problem for me is like, I don't really care to go shoot like Armando Fiera. He would like take an A7S and go shoot a short
Yeah.
film. And then he would like talk about his experience using the camera shooting a short film. But like, I don't care to make a short film. I just want to like make an entertaining YouTube video about the A7S. You know what I mean?
No, I
So,
know exactly what you mean. I'm one of those that I love the camera as well. I'm a huge fan of cameras. I own 4 of them for no reason. But
yeah,
I
it's a
I
problem.
can see where, I'm one of those that say it's about the story. Just like you said earlier,
Yes.
to get that engagement, you need a good story to go with this product that you're about to talk about. Because if you just turn on your camera, put a couple of lights on and start talking about the camera only, you're probably not going to get as much
Yeah.
engagement as if you kind of stick a story in there. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where they're coming from with that, with regards to it's about the story. But yeah, like you said,
No. I'm just saying, yeah, no,
Yeah,
100%. I agree. Yeah, like the story for me is the
Yeah.
camera. That's I feel like people basically what I'm saying is like I would build the story around
Sure.
the camera. And it's like, well, it's not about the camera. Like, go make
Yeah.
something with the camera and then come back
Yeah,
and
and
tell
I-
us
and
what
I-
you made. It's like, well, I did make something. I made this
Yeah.
video about it.
That's true. Well, yeah, I think to Armando's point, like Armando, I've seen his videos. I don't see them all, but
Armando's awesome.
yeah, no, he's great.
Good friend and super talented.
I
I
think
love him. Yeah.
he enjoys making those short films, and that's kind of what it is. Like he
Exactly.
enjoys doing. So he gets this product that I'm sure he loves and all that stuff. But he goes, "Let me go do something I love to do and tell you about it in that context." If you like doing sports, you go shoot sports with this camera and then talk to us about it. Let us know what it. I like what
Totally.
Matt Johnson's doing. Matt Johnson gets his camera and gives it its review from a wedding filmmaker's point of view. So those are the things that kind of people want.
And he likes weddings. I've interviewed him on my show as well,
Okay.
and we're good friends. And I was like, there was a point where in our interview where I asked him, I was like, so do you like shooting weddings? He's like, I love it. I was like, really? So I was like, it was an interesting thing. He actually really enjoys it. He has a great business doing it. And you're right. Like he comes at it from that perspective and that makes his content very specific. And he gets work from his channel too. Cause he's like, you'd be surprised, like brides and grooms will just like be searching on YouTube for like wedding filmmaker
That works
on YouTube. And then all my videos show up and he books clients from people who aren't even filmmakers just because he's so ingrained in
that's why it helps out. He and I did an episode on my podcast talking about commercial clients compared to residential clients or individual clients. I guess that's a huge benefit for him and having his channel is because just about everybody that watches his show could be a potential client. It's not the case for me because my commercial clients are not going to be looking at my channel because I'm not catering to them. I'm catering, I'm talking about stuff that people that want to be YouTubers want to talk about. So that's a very big plus for him. But either way, he's doing great work, and again, is very niche based, and he's doing just fantastic work. He's also a funny dude.
100%. Super funny. Love that guy. Yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate that anything that may be taken as criticism is constructive, and it's not by any means accusatory. I am good friends with Armando. I'm good friends with like a lot of these people that I've mentioned. I know personally. I would love to, if any of them wanted to, if they're listening to this and they want to reach out and be like, hey, you know what, you're kind of right about this. Like, how can I change this or
Sure.
that or whatever? I love the YouTube so much, and I feel like it's kind of I don't know many guys in our niche that like genuinely love
Yeah.
YouTube. So, and that's the kind of my problem is like, am I in the wrong niche? You know what I mean? Like, with this type of passion and energy, if I put it towards a different niche that we're talking, instead of 100,000 views as kind of your barrier of
Sure.
success, we're talking
Yeah.
millions in a different niche. Like, that's been my kind of internal struggle is like, I through and through feel more passionate about being an entertainer than
Okay.
anything. But I just happen to love cameras and technology. So I've kind of just been thrown into that
I'm pretty
niche.
sure that there is a way you can combine all of that. So for example, for me, I'm more of a sort of professional in the sense that I do commercial work, I do big events, and I have a whole team of people that I coordinate with. So I'm in the more of the professional sort of level. I'm not really in the YouTuber type of level. This is really more extracurricular activity for me, having the podcast and
Mhm.
all that stuff. So I'm what you would call one of those viewers that really doesn't pay attention to the entertainment side of camera review. So I gravitate more toward Gerald Undone anytime a camera comes out because
Yep.
I want to know everything about this camera inside and out,
Me too.
you
I
know?
freaking
And
love that guy.
so that's the guy to go to know everything about, not to be entertained. So I don't look at Potato Jet. I don't look at other channels that more make it into a show.
More personality
Right, because
based.
that's
Yeah.
not what I'm interested in the information. Now, not every viewer is going to be like me, but I'm doing it to see how this can benefit my business. You know what I mean? So I want to see it from a
Yeah.
professional point of view. That being said, I really, I really enjoy Casey's videos, Camera Conspiracies. That guy is
Yes.
hilarious.
I
So when I
thought you were
only want
saying.
to
I thought you
be,
were gonna
when
say
I
Casey
only want to
Neistat,
be
but yeah.
entertained, I'll go watch Casey because he is just funny with all his antics. It's just hilarious to
Well,
watch.
I think the
Even though he's
difference.
probably one of the most least qualified, and he even says it himself, to like review cameras. I don't go for him
Yeah.
for the information. I go for him for the entertainment of talking about these cameras. So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, Camera Conspiracies, I love that channel. And I think the great thing that you pointed out is like he kind of has this understanding that like going into it that it's a
yeah,
meme. You know, the whole
oh yeah,
thing, the whole entire thing, every video is a joke. So that's the difference is like
yeah,
in the past I've tried to experiment with jokes, but then I also do real
right,
videos. So it kind of splits the audience
kind
a
of,
little bit. So yeah, but this is all
yeah, right.
interesting
It's
data for
very
me
interesting.
to listen to though, because I think that's like been my struggle is like I feel like people in our niche really just take themselves very seriously and that's
Right,
not bad. And they just want to kind of come to listen
sure,
to the specs and look at the reviews and they don't want to fuss around with anything that gets in the way of the information that they're coming there
yeah,
for. So and you look at like MKBHD, for example, he's the biggest, tech reviewer on the
yeah,
planet, I guess. Him and Linus Tech Tips. And his stuff is extremely valuable. He always comes at it from like a certain angle. He's always got just great value that he's
yeah.
adding, and it's not like entertaining in that way that you would consider like a comedy
It's
show, but it is entertaining for tech enthusiasts.
yeah,
But
yeah. But he doesn't do anything that is kind of like outside the bounds of like, I don't know. I
mhm.
don't see it's entertaining in that I love the shots that he has all the time. He always has great shots of the products. He's able to formulate
Yeah,
his point in a very efficient way that it's easily consumable. So it kind of works for him. And
yeah,
anybody that wants to know anything about the next iPhone that's coming out, that's the guy to go to and get his review on that. Just like
totally.
any camera, Gerald is the guy to go to get really the main meat and potatoes of this new camera, you know? So
Mhm.
yeah, they're
And
huh?
I think I feel like I relate more to kind of Linus Tech
Okay.
Tips. I don't know if you've ever watched
I've
Linus,
heard of him.
but like he he does very kind of high level tech stuff often, where he'll like do a whole breakdown of like his IT setup with servers and all this crazy
Yeah.
stuff. But yet he keeps it highly entertaining somehow. So, and then he's got multiple hosts and like a full, massive crew. I think he's got like 30 or 40 employees now.
Wow.
Um, writers, shooters. It's really well shot. I think that's the underlying thread for a lot of the biggest creators in the tech and camera space is like it kind of needs to be shot
Yeah.
well because it kind of goes
Yeah.
alongside the product of like this proves that we know what we're talking
Yeah.
about kind of a thing. But then within that you can be
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah. I
I don't
definitely
know.
agree. Yeah. It's after a certain point, it's still very much about the story, but there's something that you have to have that quality there because once I start watching a channel, if I'm looking for something that's not really there's not much out there about it, I'll go in like the other day I was looking for a tripod review on a certain tripod. And I go out and I notice there's not that many reviews out there on this particular tripod. The ones that are out there is like, I would say like 50 views, shot on a flip phone, maybe, just awful, awful
Well, that's
quality. But it's the only thing that was out there. But it's just
mhm.
you could absolutely tell, and obviously, if I have options, I had to watch it because I didn't have any other options. But if I had options, I'm always going to I gravitate to the one that has a nicer first frame, that has a nicer
Yeah.
opening. I don't
You
know.
know,
It's just one of those that,
you're bringing up a
uh-huh.
good. Sorry, I
Sure,
keep
sure,
cutting you
sure.
off here, but I'm inspired by what you're saying because again, you're kind of bringing up some interesting like research
Hmm.
for me because there is another route you could take that doesn't require a big epic, crazy YouTube-y kind of idea, and that is the kind of I don't know if you're familiar with a channel called Think Media. They talk about
I love
YouTube
Think
stuff
Media.
and
I've
they
had
have
I've had
multiple
Sean
hosts.
Kennel on the podcast. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
He's
Sean is
fantastic.
awesome. He's a
Yeah,
believer.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome guy. I've met him a couple times at like
Yeah,
NAB and
yeah, yeah.
stuff. And anyways, their approach is kind of the shotgun approach where they're kind of reviewing every camera that would be interesting in their niche, talking about almost every topic within their niche, posting 5 videos a week
Yeah.
basically like and maybe they're only getting 10,000 views a video for a 2 million sub channel, but if they're doing 5 videos a week, I don't think they're actually doing 5, but let's just say they do
Yeah.
3 a week. Um, Collectively over time that adds up to a lot of views. They have a massive library that is completely just locked into the YouTube like search algorithm. And so when I hear you say that, I could take another approach, which is I just review every freaking thing I could
Yeah.
possibly get my hands on with my mindset of like trying my best to keep it entertaining but also informative, well shot, well made, and just have a shotgun
Yeah.
approach of like every product. That way it's just like Dave May's like archive just
Hmm.
has everything you could possibly imagine. But that's not playing the YouTube game in the way that it's being played
Yeah.
these days, which is high level concept, good thumbnail, good, overall story that holds your
Yeah.
attention to the end. So I don't know. Maybe that's like a website where it's like a Patreon thing. Like you subscribe to a Patreon and I review, 20, 30 products a month on
Jeez.
that, which would be exhausting.
Well, they would have to be like low scale in terms of like quality. You just set it unless you have a set that you could just
Yeah.
go and have there always only for that channel.
Yeah.
One of my favorite.
Maybe that could be a separate
Yeah.
channel.
No,
Maybe.
definitely. One of my favorite channels, especially when I was starting off, was Film Riot. Film Riot. I started on Film Riot,
Yeah.
and
Ryan
you know what's
Connolly,
funny?
baby.
I had Ryan on the show as well. What's funny is that I don't do VFX. I don't do these Hollywood movies. I don't do narratives. I really don't. I just really, aside from the fact that they were helping the episodes that they had where it was how to light for an interview, the camera reviews, lighting techniques, audio techniques, things like that, equipment stuff. things that really mostly pertain to me. I love to watch
Uh-huh.
those the most, more in depth, put it that way. But then what kept me on the other ones was their antics, their skits that they do all the time. It's hilarious. And
Totally.
how they made their ad reads so funny. I actually wish they would bring those back. But actually, I think they're coming back with that a little bit because their ads, sponsor ads, started becoming funny again. I love the when Josh would yell from behind the camera and some funny stuff there, and in the middle of an ad read, and he would interrupt Ryan. Their little back and forth is just really, really funny. Uh,
Ryan's amazing, and
yeah,
his channel is crazy, and he's been a good friend
yeah,
over the years. And he was partly like when I got the offer to work for Indie Mogul, I tapped into him. I called him up. I was like, should I do this? And he kind of told me that
yeah.
I should, even if it's only for a couple of years. And he's kind of been like, because he's really the only person that I can think of that in our niche has been around kind of since the beginning and has had really good success. He's always been like somebody I really look up to and respect. And you're right. Like he kind of
Yeah.
balances the YouTube vibe with the filmmaking
He's
niche. I'm looking at his channel now, and like his thumbnails look very cinematic, but they're also very clickbaity also, but they're so that he's doing the sort of like the
yeah.
YouTube thing, but it's not
Sure.
cringy because it looks more
Yeah,
cinematic.
their stuff is
Um,
phenomenal, and I know that they've been really putting a lot of effort into making all these downloadable packs, these audio packs, these sound packs, these graphics
uh-huh.
that you can download on their store. They've been doing just a great job for a very long time, and
Totally.
they've been very consistent with all that.
Yeah, and they yeah. So yeah, I mean Ryan doesn't just do indie or not indie mogul, Film Riot. He owns a couple other channels, and he has a
Yeah,
gaming
they have the variant one
channel and
that Erisk.
the
Yeah,
comic book stuff. So I think those are a little more, I think he might have more YouTube success with those technically in terms
probably.
of
He's
views,
doing what he
but
loves though. He loves
Film
the
Riot,
Film Riot
yeah.
one. So I want to go back to a little bit and discuss a little bit of the you mentioned that the views are down all across the board with all these channels. And I'm wondering if, because I have noticed a shift, let's say, for example, Peter McKinnon. I have noticed a
Mhm.
shift in his content in the past year or two, where it's a
Mhm.
lot less educational stuff and a lot more of what he loves. Could you
Mhm. The
the
personality
kind of
stuff,
stuff,
yeah.
vlogging stuff, and same thing with Maddie as well. So I was
Yeah.
trying to find a review on a camera. I forgot which one it was, maybe A7S3 when it came out or whatever, and it was a 10-minute video,
Mhm.
but the first 6-7 minutes of it was just vlogging, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is why I like
I I hate to say
yeah.
it, but I relate to that. I was looking at his review of the R5C, and he didn't actually start talking about the camera until about 5 minutes and
Mhm.
5 minutes and 38
Yeah.
seconds in. And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, what was your
Yeah, no,
question?
and
Just on
I'm
that
trying to
topic.
see if could this play a role, and I almost know the answer, into like the viewership, because I even read in the
Mhm.
comments where it's like, man, when are we either getting to talking about the camera, or this was like a 10-minute video, only 2 minutes of this 10 minutes was about the camera, and then like Peter McKinnon is like,
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in the comments. I mean, don't get me wrong, the content that even Peter's talking about, these coffee makers that are very unique, you've never heard or seen of these things, very cool. It
Yeah.
actually, when he posted it on social media, because I don't watch it on YouTube, but when he posts it on social media, I am interested in knowing about this coffee maker. It's pretty cool stuff, but it doesn't bring me value. It brings me now more entertainment than anything. Um, if
Yeah.
you're if you're into that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I definitely
Yeah.
noticed the shift in content is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I'm no like crazy expert here, so that's my disclaimer. But based on my experience, being hosting Indie Mogul and having some success there, and with Kinotika, and then also just doing a lot of research
Hmm.
on this exact topic because I'm trying to figure it out too. because I'm in this niche. So I'm literally trying to figure out what's going on. I think a lot of those guys are kind of doing what Casey Neistat did 4 years ago, and that doesn't work anymore. Like, that's not how YouTube functions anymore. And the reason it works so well with Casey Neistat is because at the time, YouTube was encouraging creators to post more frequently rather than having banger videos once a month. So it would actually be better for Peter to spend, again, this is just from a YouTube viewership perspective. If we're talking like, if Peter McKinnon wants to get 10 million views on a video, he could, because he has all the connections. Imagine if Peter McKinnon tapped into the potential of what he has, the access that he has with Casey Neistat, with Mr. Beast, with MKBHD, creating something in the YouTuber space with his giftings as a filmmaker and being in the filmmaking niche. He's able to do that crossover if he wanted to, and potentially do a video that would blow up and be astronomical in terms of views for our niche. But he's not doing it. And I think it's because maybe if he listens to this, he'd be like, oh, yeah, I could do that. Maybe he just hasn't thought about it. But also, I think they're just focused on building their community. And what they're doing with these vlogs, I think, is beneficial to create kind of super fans, where Maddie and Peter and Potato Jet are creating these vlogs, and the people who do the views might be lower than if they just did one banger video a month that got millions of views. But what they've done is they've kind of created a community of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who are actually invested in their lives and like really kind of into the reality TV aspect of what they're doing. And those are the super fans that will buy the shirts and the backpacks and the LUTs and the things that they sell. And probably long term is a good strategy to have, because overall, the next decade of their life, if they're able to kind of sustain a very solid fan base, they can make a living, for the rest of their career, because these people are super fans. Just like, if you listen to Van Halen, anytime Van Halen was in your town, you're going to go see him, So, anyways, I think that's ultimately what they're doing, is they're creating those super fans. But from a YouTube perspective, if you're trying to play the YouTube game, what they're doing worked 4 or 5 years ago when Casey was blowing up, when Logan Paul, Jake Paul were doing the daily vlogs. Basically, that's when Peter McKinnon blew up, was during that era. So I think Peter's sort of like, he was like infusing tutorials and education with a vlog, and that's how he got people hooked on his content, because he's a great on-camera personality. It's super engaging. Like, if you watch him as an entertainer and a person, it's easy to get kind of addicted to the McKinnon like personality, because you're just like really kind of hooked on it. And so now I feel like he's kind of gone the other way a little bit, where it's all personality with very, not a lot of focus on search traffic and like, I'm going to talk about this thing that can maybe actually help somebody. He does, again, I'm not saying he doesn't review stuff and do tutorials, because he does still do tutorials and reviews, but it does seem like generally he's basically just doing vlog content, which means that he's building a solid fan base, but he's not necessarily playing the game of like trying to get 1 million views a video. So it's just two different strategies. The Mr. Beast strategy is a very young man strategy, single, non-married. Like, his goal is, he's only 23 years old, Jimmy, or 24, I think. And so he's not married, doesn't have kids. Like, he's really young, and he's been doing this for a decade now. And he's just driven to get the most views possible. He's spending every dollar he makes on the videos. And that will probably work out for him well as he ages and matures, because he'll have gathered hundreds of millions of people that are his fans that will, he'll be able to do TV shows. He'll be able to do more YouTube as it, matures over the next decade, 20 years from now. But what McKinnon and Maddie, in my opinion, are doing is they're creating a longevity approach, which is like, they're not super focused on super clickbaity things. They're not super focused on what everybody else is doing in terms of just reviewing and doing tutorials on things. In fact, you could argue that you could get all that information from other people that have 2 or 3,000 subscribers, because that's kind of a quick and easy way to blow up, is to talk about something that's trending or to talk about a technique that people need to
Mm-hmm.
learn. I would argue that if they did that, they would continue to
Mm-hmm.
grow a little bit more. And I would also argue that they have a great opportunity that I don't think they're taking advantage of with the connections they have. Um, but that being said, I think it seems like they're pretty happy
Yeah.
with how things are going.
Yeah.
And I know McKinnon is making millions of dollars. So
No, I mean
I think he's
that is
totally
one thing.
fine. And he's a husband and
Yeah.
father too. He's got kids, and like, so he's treating it like a job.
Yeah,
You know?
and I've told people that it's not easy to build content. So I had a client that wanted to start their channel, start their podcast, just like I'm doing mine, and do all this. I know the client very on a personal level as well. And I told him, look, I could tell you that even if I was to do all the work for you, I do the shooting, I'll do the editing, I'll do the uploading, I'll do the description, everything for you. What I cannot do for you is something that you're going to have to kind of commit to doing consistently. And that's going to be difficult. Even that alone is going to be difficult for you. And that is finding your topics, finding your guests, all this stuff. That takes work as well. And I'm telling you this from experience because I've been doing my podcast for 3 years. It is time consuming to try, not only physically, but mentally. These are things that you have to think about on a week-to-week basis. When I started my podcast, I started doing 3 episodes a week. You know, three episodes a week, and I was doing. I don't know how long that lasted for. It lasted for a good amount of time, put it that way. But it made it. First of all, it made it much easier when I had a static co-host. You know, much easier. Because I don't have to go look for a host. Hey, let's get on. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Right? Not a problem. Great.
Yeah.
Now, what else? Then we went down to 2 episodes. Now I'm down to 1. Now I'm down to whenever I can type of deal. But again, it's not, my podcast wasn't really mostly about bringing me money or anything like that. It was really more to put out information, to connect. It has brought me good indirect work, but that was never the goal. But yeah, so I know firsthand. And on top of that, I was the DP for the I Am Athlete podcast with Brandon Marshall, Fred Taylor, Chad Ochocinco, and Channing Crowder. Those guys kind of broke up already, and I'm working with the Pivot podcast now, which is only Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder. But when they were I Am Athlete podcast, they once had Jake Paul as the guest. And
Cool. Yeah.
and they asked Jake, this is when Jake was like really getting into boxing and whatnot. He already had like 2 wins already, but with like no name people essentially.
Okay.
And they asked him the question, what's harder, boxing or YouTubing? He said, YouTubing, hands down, way harder. And I was probably the only one, because I know all the guys and whatnot, and they're all pushing back. I was like, no way, man, football's way hard. And listen, I played football myself. I played in college. I kind of know what they kind of entails to be a football player. But YouTubing is harder, bro. YouTubing, it's harder mentally. Mentally, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
That's why there's YouTube burnout. You've never heard of football burnout. That doesn't happen. That's not a thing. We have 2-a-days. Like we go through all that stuff. Again, I've done them both. YouTubing in the capacity, put it this way, in the capacity that Jake Paul was doing it. We're talking daily vlogs, daily videos, all this stuff. To have to think about that kind of content, what's engaging, what all these lines, what Rick Shield does to make sure you put that line in there to stay tuned to the end, all this stuff that goes into making a YouTube video engaging, not just putting any video up, make it engaging, make it attractive, make more people want to watch. There's no end to that. It's
Yeah.
a bottomless pit. Nothing is going to fill that, you know? So it's a nonstop thing. So YouTubing is there is very real burnout that goes with that. That's why for you, it was very good that you took a whole year off to take a break, to kind of reanalyze, recalibrate yourself. And I would even advise every YouTuber to purposely plan a break, plan a month where you're just off of YouTube for 30 days. Take 30 days, go on a trip, recalibrate yourself, come, you know, and then get back to it. But I think that that's essential. Yes, in 30 days, you might get a few people unsubscribe or whatnot, but you're refreshed. You can come back with clear mind, you know, think of new topics. Doesn't mean don't think of anything. If something pops up in the top of your head, something like, man, this would be a great video, write it down. I'm sure every YouTuber does that. I do that.
Yeah.
But
100%.
Write it down, put it away. Enjoy your vacation, enjoy your days off, enjoy your family, enjoy whatever it is, travel, but you have to step away. You need that break, because if not, it's just going to be detrimental. You're just continuing to try and fill a bottomless pit that's never going to be filled. You know, it's just, you need that refresh.
Yes.
So that's what I mean. I would highly recommend a lot of YouTubers to do that, because that's just, it's going to happen. It's not when, it's not if, it's when. So
absolutely. 100. I agree with everything you said. Yeah. I mean, I was never an athlete. I was in marching band. So I was one of the nerds that you would make fun of as you walk past them. But that was hard too.
Physical toughness and mental toughness they're very two different monsters. I would take physical toughness over any mental toughness anytime, just because, you know, I was kind of bred that way. But mental toughness and mental capacity to kind of think of all these things and not drive yourself nuts, it's tough. It's a real thing. So,
you know, that reminds me of a pirate. He had a steering wheel stuck in his crotch. He said, "Arg, it's driving me nuts."
I think that's a good ending to the episode.
Have you heard that joke?
I don't think so. Oh man, that's a good ending to the show. To the episode. Dude, so where can everybody find all of your stuff, the new channel and all
that? Sorry for the sound. It sounds like my VHS player just started rewinding itself.
I don't hear it.
Dave Maze, DAVEMAZE. I was gonna do this Dave Maze 222 thing because it was like a number that was special to me and my wife, but then I acquired that URL for my personal channel, and then I got Kinotika, and now I deleted it from my personal one, but for some reason, like in their system, it hasn't like gone back on the market. So it's actually Dave Maze 1. Like if you go to youtube.com/Dave Maze, and I just added the number 1. So because some joker has the URL, you know, youtube.com/Dave Maze, I need to figure out how I can get a hold of that. But anyways, yeah, just search Dave Maze and it'll pop up. So
awesome. I'm going to be putting links to that on the show notes for this episode. But dude, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story. That was awesome.
Thank you, Ariel. It was a pleasure. It was super fun. And yeah, go check out the Golden Hour podcast as well. I host that each week with different guests. And yeah, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
So there you have it. I hope you liked that conversation. I hope that it sparked some thinking on your part regarding YouTube channels and how to start one, how to build one, how to retain one. It's definitely no walk in the park. It's very, very hard work. But anyways, I hope you guys were able to walk away with some good knowledge on this episode. And I definitely look forward to Dave Mace coming on the show again. I'll be putting links to all of his channels and links and content on the show notes for this episode, so you know where to find those. Until next time, my name is Ariel Martinez, and thanks for joining us on the Miami Video Podcast.